In the name of Amen the Supreme, the all-powerful, the one and only true Lord, and Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and in Amen we continue forward forever. I want to speak on something I came across on Tariq Nasheed's channel in reference to Dane Callaway. This is Tariq on Tariq Radio, where he did a cast, and the title of it is "Could East African Cuisine Outshine FBA Soul Food?" Okay, first and foremost, I'm not even gonna pick that apart, but FBA. But in there, young man called in, speaking about Dane Callaway, and saying, basically start off by saying we the American Indians, and that they started speaking about reparations and things like that, and are people getting reparations, and Tariq Nasheed was listening, and then he goes on to start lambasting this guy that called in by asking him, does he believe what Dane Callaway is saying about Harriet Tubman? Right. And, the guy went on to say, I listened to you. He was trying to be objective. The young man was saying, I listened to you. He said, and I listened to Dane Callaway. And Tariq basically, went off and stayed on this whole topic of Dane Callaway saying that Harriet Tubman was a fictional character that was created by the U.S. government. Now, I want y'all to listen to this. I'm going to play it shortly. Fair use, by the way, fair use before we go. Fair use. I'm just using this for, reference purposes.
Very good stuff. Okay. I'm not disagreeing with anything. Now, have you listened to Dane Callaway before?
Yes.
Do you believe Dane Callaway has said that Harriet Tubman didn't exist? She was a creation of the federal government. She's a fictional character.
Yeah, I've heard him say that before. And there's things.
Do you believe that?
Hold on. I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, it was things that they were saying because they were saying Dane Callaway says think for yourself. I'd rather think for my ancestors. I don't know Dane Callaway. Same way I don't know you. You know what I'm saying? We're all men. I respect everybody's opinion. Everybody has a free thought. Just because he might say something that I agree with, don't mean I agree with him 100%. I still have my own opinion on things. I have my own thoughts. Now, do you agree or disagree with Harriet Tubman being a fictional character created by the government? I don't know much about it. I'm still young, researching myself.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. All right. That Dane Callaway shit, no. With all due respect. See, I don't like my name coming up with that bullshit. Me and Dane, we're not the same. Dane stole some shit from Hidden Colors and tried to remix this shit, and he puts complete utter bullshit on top of it. When niggas are running around here with talking about Harriet Tubman was a fictional character created by the government, I don't want to. Everything is nullified. Everything you say is nullified. I don't want to hear nothing else you have to say. Well, and respect to the brother, see, this is what I'm saying. It has to be truth to power. We can't mix this stuff in with bullshit. You feel me? When you see somebody who's full of shit saying horse crap, charge that to the game. We can't mix that in with some real shit. The shit is too real out here for that. All right? It's too real. If somebody sits up here and says some goofball ass nonsense like that, it's time to push away from the table. See, black folks, too many of us have a prison mentality because people like to sit up in jail and listen to bullshit just to pass the time by. And you know it's bullshit, but you want to hear it anyway. That's why people like these goofy ass skits online. Some of the shit you watch online, you know it's not real, but you say, "Oh, look at that, that's crazy." Ooh. You clearly see this is a skit. This isn't real. I don't like that. I don't watch skits. I'm not entertained. When I see something online and I see that it's phony, I immediately tune out. I'm about truth to power. We got to be on some truth to power thing, not no lullaby, fairy tale, story time shit. When it's time to handle business, cats just want to be entertained by fairy tales, and then you want to mix fairy tales in with the truth, and that ain't it. That's not it. You see, we got to grow the fuck up when it comes to getting real information out here. All right? And when you got goofy niggas out here talking about the federal government created Harriet Tubman and she wasn't real, that's horse crap. That's horse crap. Everything else you have to say is nullified. You dig? Oh my goodness. See, black folks, we got to start thinking in terms of real business.
All right. That was Tariq Nasheed lambasting Dane Callaway. First and foremost, I have an issue with this, and I'm going to tell you why. Dane Callaway, I got, tuned into Dane Callaway maybe back in the end of 2022, 2023, and I've seen his work around before, and I never really, paid much attention to it because it was just another YouTuber to me, and I was just like, whatever. But then when I actually let myself listen to the things Dane Callaway was saying, and I was seeing the work this man put in, going to places, actually going to these places and, and picking up documents and researching and writing books and things like that, and really putting in work for real, about who we are as the American indigenous people, the American Indians, really putting in that work, finding out about the slave trade, finding out about all the things this man put in and has been doing this for years, him and his wife. And I said, damn, you know what? I got a newfound respect for Dane Callaway because he said some very real things. Very real things. Now, Tariq Nasheed, you sitting up here and you're basically discrediting this man because, and discrediting all the work he's put in. You discrediting it because he said something about Harriet Tubman. And you acting like this man just said this. He's a man that done put in years of work and, researching who our people were, who we actually are as the real American Indians of this land, right? Something I've never heard you say. Yet you claim Dane Callaway copied from Hidden Colors. I'd like to know what he copied from Hidden Colors from you, because Dane Callaway is saying we American Indians. You saying we foundational black Americans, wherever the hell that is. There's no such thing as a foundational black American. First and foremost, black and white are created social statuses from the U.S. government. There's no such thing as a black race or a white race. When you said that nonsense about us being black skinned people, that was the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. That didn't make no sense. So you telling me a light skinned person, so a beige complected person is black? A beige complected person is black? A bronze complected person, because we come in many different shades, Tariq Nasheed, from dark brown, copper colored, all the way down to beige complexion. And I've never heard you point out that the definition of the word America, you never broke that down, saying that the copper colored people that described in the word America and the definition of America is actually our people. Dane Callaway said that. You didn't say that. So I'm trying to figure out what he exactly said from you. You never said we was American Indians. I never heard you say that. And if you did, now, if that's the case, then why are you now saying we black people? What is that? What is that? Talk about hidden history. By you calling us black people, you're hiding who we are as the American Indians. So who's really being phony here? Let's be for real. I've heard nothing but plausible things from Dane Callaway. You, my friend, are very questionable. Now, my opinion don't have to matter because, again, who am I? I'm not no big YouTuber. I don't care about YouTube like that. But I am very objective when it comes to information and people who put in work. I respect work. When it comes to the hidden colors things, let's just be for real, Tariq Nasheed. You cobbled together a bunch of second-rate historians, third-rate historians who made their little, their little circuit on the Black Conscious tour. People like Booker Coleman, Red Pill Blue. These are guys who made their little rotation on the Sarnetta circuit. You took a bunch of people from Sarnetta TV and put them in the damn movie, and they said a bunch of random ass things that nobody really checked for. So I'm like, how are you going to sit up here and measure what you did, which you took a bunch of random people who brought their own information to it. It's not your information. A bunch of random people that brought information. So some of that stuff is questionable. Brought that to a film and whatnot. You made 3 or 4 films and whatnot and called it hidden history. Here it is. Dane Callaway did all the research himself, gave references and things like that. He didn't rely on third and fourth party people. He did it all himself and wrote books on it. But you're going to discredit this man because you got some kind of personal big issue with him claiming he stole from Hidden Colors. How can you steal from history? History is not a creation of people. History just is, things that happen, past events and events that took place that people record and document and they bring out to the public. That's what Dane Callaway did. He went and searched down historical facts concerning our people. Now, you talking about you getting all bent out of shape over what he said about Harriet Tubman, and I gotta wonder why. Harriet Tubman was over 100 plus years ago. So what personal issue could you possibly have with the man saying what he said about Harriet Tubman? Because you acting like Harriet Tubman is beyond reproach or the questioning of that person, Harriet Tubman. I have to ask, and when I heard other people from Dane Callaway to shout out to Dane Callaway, shout out to Chronicles of Judah, and when they spoke about Harriet Tubman, and also not to mention the fact he also said Nat Turner was a creation of the American the U.S. government. You know what? It's very plausible. When I say this about Harriet Tubman, is because her real name was Arminta Ross. Why did she go by Arminta Ross? How did she become Harriet Tubman? Where did that name come from? That alias Harriet Tubman come from? Where did the name Harriet Tubman come from? When her name was Arminta Ross, where did that come from? Now, the way I was putting things together, when I hear people talking about the history of Harriet Tubman, here's a very plausible thing about Harriet Tubman. That she led slaves, so-called slaves, indentured servants, our people up from the South and to the North through a networking system called the Underground Railroad that was set up by abolitionists, white abolitionists. Your white abolitionists back then are what your white liberals are today. They're racist just like your racist white people in the South and things like that. Your abolitionists act like they care so much about so-called black people when in reality, just like the Caucasian liberals who pushed our people to become Democrats, who act like they not racist like the out and out stomped down Southern racists, white racists. Like I said, they think lower you too. The white abolitionists thought the same way, but they just wasn't as inhumane as, so to speak, as the straight up stomped down racist Caucasians in the South. But they also thought the same way. So Harriet Tubman's job was basically as a change agent for the U.S. government, where she helped to transport slaves from the South to the North to work in industries in the North. Keep in mind, you had factories opening up. You had domestic people who needed domestic workers, your black women who became maids in the kitchens of a lot of these white abolitionists, right, who sponsored people like Harriet Tubman to bring these slaves from up north, because the thinking was that, hey, the same way these people work hard down south, the same way these people will work hard down south, they'll work even better if they given a living wage, which really wasn't nothing. They'll see it as being better than being in the South. We'll treat them a little bit better and we'll act like we think of them on a better or a higher level than what the white racists did. So that's all she did. She helped transport these people through this network called the Underground Railroad up from the South to the North and help put these people to work in the North. That was basically Harriet Tubman's job. They gave her money. They gave her weapons, right? Guns she was always carrying, things like that. And they claimed it was free, but they were being free to go to the North and work for those same white abolitionists that was funding her thing. It's basically kind of like today where you see these, the Democrats and whatnot, and these so-called liberals, they stomping for the illegals that come over here and come up into America and come over here because they want to use them as cheap labor. That's the same thing that white abolitionists did. That's why they wanted the slaves to come from South to North. They needed a workforce. And like I said, it wasn't a lot of white people here in this country until the turn of the century. They make you think it was a whole influx of white people here in the 1800s and things like it was not. It was not. The influx of Caucasian, so-called white people, didn't start coming until the end of the 1800s and going into the 1900s when they started coming from Ellis Island, coming in through Ellis Island, through Ireland, through Italy, through Russia, and through all these other places and whatnot. And this is where they really started cementing and bringing in these Europeans into America. Prior to that time, it wasn't a lot of them like that. It really wasn't. Okay, so these people who were in the North, these Caucasian European so-called white people who were in the North, they needed workers. Again, these factories were opening up. They were trying to build up these cities, and they wanted slave labor. But the only thing is, they was like, okay, well, we'll work them like slaves. We ain't gonna own them, but we'll work them like slaves. And in certain places, before some of these people had their hands still in slavery. But the whole thing is, they wanted to still work on people to death and pay them barely a living wage. But they were like, well, at least it's better than working for nothing and being beaten and whipped and whatnot. So that was the whole come on to run up there and follow behind Harriet Tubman. She was a change agent. And the fact that Seward, who was the man by the name of Seward, who he was a Secretary of State or whatever, he was the one that issued out payments to Harriet Tubman and even gave her the land that she has in upstate New York. They gave her that home and that land that she ended up having and retiring in upstate New York. So you got to ask yourself, why would Seward, I forget what his first name is, why would he give Harriet Tubman, aka Arminta Ross, all that land if she wasn't working for the government, if she wasn't a change agent? So when Dane Callaway says that Harriet Tubman was a creation of the U.S. government, now is he saying that this person, Arminta Ross, didn't exist, or is he saying the alias Harriet Tubman was created by the government, like an agent name? You know, like an agent name like you, Tariq Nasheed, which is not your real name, is Marcus Sanders. Tariq Nasheed is your agent name. Or, we won't go say agent because I don't like throwing that word agent around. You know, your alias. Harriet Tubman is an alias of Arminta Ross, just like Tariq Nasheed is an alias of Marcus Sanders. Okay? And you're going to say that and he uncovered that. Now, if that's what he's saying, that's very plausible. I can see that. Because it never made sense to me that this little woman was running around with a damn gun and she got all of these contacts. Make that make sense to me. She was ignorant. She was supposed to be, she couldn't read or do none of this other stuff. But she ran off of a plantation and she ain't never been off a plantation in her life, yet she was able to get off a plantation, get a gun and run back and forth, know all these areas, coming back and forth and shuttling these people through an underground railroad or underground a network to get them up north and whatnot, where they got work and they were working and things like that. Something about that don't sound right. It don't sound. How is she able to do all that without help? And how did they know to help her, somebody like her? Think about that. So if Dane Callaway is saying that, and like I said, shout out to Chronicles of Judah 144, that's very plausible. If he's making that stance that the character, the name Harriet Tubman was fictional, yeah, I could see that. Just like the name Nat Turner, which this person probably was somebody, or a person was somebody else. Again, I'm open and objective to listen, but and if somebody's giving historical proof and, you know, giving us something to grow on and think about, then why not? Why not? Because, you know, it just seems like this is more of a personal attack on Dane Callaway, and you are basically discrediting this man for the work that he's put in. And I don't like that. I got a problem with that, because you're not up here telling the truth that we really are the American Indians. You're not saying that. You coming up with this cobbled together foundational Black American thing. If anybody was going to turn off from anything, they should turn off from you, because how do you have a foundation in blackness? That's not even nothing real. Like I said, when you said that nonsense about us being black skinned people, we should have stopped listening to you then. Yet I still listen to you. How's a light skinned person, a brown skin, a person we call ourselves black skinned people? Those are not even real racial designations. Like I said, these are created social statuses by the U.S. government. Yet you trying to get us to believe that these are real racial identities. You trying to say that we are foundational Black American, that we are a lineage. That's not a lineage. That's a United States status. Why are you trying to be deceptive with that? Black is not a race. Black is not a lineage. What are you talking about? Foundational Black American is not real. Nobody recognizes that. You're trying to make that a thing. And that goes right back to how the U.S. government was using groups, these type of groups like the Black Panthers, and they even used James Brown to spread this whole black thing. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Our skin is not black. So again, if you talking about the system of white supremacy, you supporting the system of white supremacy by saying that we're black people and claiming that we some FBAs. That's not real. Our real identity is as American Indians. Now, the word American comes from our people. The word American comes from our people. It comes from the Mayans. The word American comes from the Mayans. It does not come from Americo Vespucci, which Dane Callaway brought out that his original name was Alberico Vespucci. I never heard you bring that out. And if you did, shout out to, I think if one of your people that you got up here on your platform when you was doing hidden colors, because that's, again, all you did was take a bunch of people from the Sarnetta network, and they just said whatever and just throwing in a bunch of things. So again, how do you claim somebody's stealing from you? I ain't heard nobody in Hidden Colors saying we really the American Indians. Dane Callaway said that. So where's he stealing from you at? It just seemed like, this is some real boule black nonsense. Again, they was trying to get us the black boule coon class that you claim you not a part of, is trying to get our people to buy into this whole black African thing, which seems like what you trying to do, because you bringing confusion. You saying that we came over here because you still believe in the African slave ship story. And Dane Callaway said it was told in reverse. But at least he gave receipts. At least he explained himself. You just said it was BS. You just said, oh, we shouldn't accept that because he said that. But you didn't give a reason why it was true. You didn't give a reason why it was true. Why you stand on that? And I told you got to be mindful. And I said this, you got to be mindful of these niggas that sit up here. They claim that we black and, we have our history starts with slavery and whatnot. You discounting the whole history of who we were in this society as American Indians. You ain't talking about us as the American Indian tribes. You ain't talking about us as the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan. That's our history here in America. We didn't come from no Africa. We have a history, an indigenous history here that has nothing to do with Africa. And Dane Callaway said that. Why I never heard you say that, but yet you claim he copied from you. You never said that. You never said we have an indigenous history here in America that has nothing to do with Africa. You keep trying to link us to Africa like how the so-called white supremacists do. Like the so-called white supremacists do, you keep on trying to link us to Africa. I didn't hear Dane Callaway do that. He said we are indigenous to America, and I agree with him. I think you making up stuff. Foundational Black American is just really something you cobbled together for you to make money off of, because you own the trademark to it, right? Nobody can do nothing under Foundational Black American. You own the trademark to that. That's something you cobbled together to make money. You see, in response to ADOS, which you used to be when then you turned around and start talking down on. You sit up here and you stood up for, at one point, like Taharka Bay boy. I'm not putting down nobody. I'm not, putting up, because again, I agree with Dane Callaway. The only problem I had with Dane Callaway is I felt he was being unrealistic when he started talking about, we need to go to the government and go to court and get our land back. And I said, the only problem I had with that is Dane Callaway, come on, man. You know damn well a thief, a liar don't believe in giving nothing back. You either gonna have to buy it back from them or take it from them by force. That's real talk. Ain't no damn paperwork gonna make these Caucasians be like, yeah, you know, you're right. We're gonna get that land back. That's ridiculous. That's the only problem I had with Dane Callaway, where I felt he was being delusional at. But other than that, his work, the work he put in, the history and things like that, and the fact that he actually did this, wrote books and things like that, my hat's off to him, because I was impressed by his work. Again, I don't go by, personal things and what I don't like about people and stuff like that. If you doing the work, and Dane Callaway has obviously did the work, he has obviously did the work, created the network and whatnot. And obviously he wasn't saying that Harriet Tubman wasn't real for nothing. In other words, I don't see him, a man who did all this history and stuff like that and all this historical research. I don't see him just coming out of the blue and pulling out, oh, and by the way, Harriet Tubman and Nat Turner ain't real, without some kind of receipts behind it. Why didn't you say, well, let me see where you getting that from, Dane Callaway? Why do you say that? Why didn't you question him before you start lambasting the man and talking crazy about him, making stupid cartoons, lame, hella gay? That cartoon was lame and hella gay. You see, how old are you, Tariq? You in your 50s? Nigga, and you making cartoons because you disagree with people? That's childish. Yet somebody's supposed to look to you? You up here making whole cartoons that ain't even funny about bears with big butts and all kind of weird stuff? That's weird and cringy type shit to me. I'm like, that's weird. With pink shorts on, and you the one that had on a pink suit. Along with a lot of other people with the pink wearing the pink before. I said a lot of you, these new millennium boule, they wearing pink. To show that they're willing to trade in their masculinity and their manhood to the so-called dominant society, right? To the so-called white supremacists for a piece of the pie or whatever you think you're going to get in reparations. But again, my issue was with you trying to discredit Dane Callaway, who is one hell of a historian. And obviously, like I said, the man has receipts on why he said what he said. You ain't got no receipts about nothing. And why are you getting so bent out of shape over what he said about Harriet Tubman? You don't know nothing about Harriet Tubman. You don't know anything about Harriet Tubman. You heard a story just like everybody else did. I ain't heard no research from you on Harriet Tubman. So how you going to try and discredit this man? And then you start off by saying, with all due respect, and then you start disrespecting the man who said nothing to you. But yeah, I heard he challenged you to a debate, which you didn't take up. Why you didn't take up the debate? Why didn't you show, well, you full of crap? I got all this history and I know that Harriet Tubman is real. Why didn't you debate Dane Callaway if that was the case? Why do you sit up here on your channel? And you can do whatever you want on your channel. Your channel is your channel. But that to me is weak. But who am I? I'm an objective person. I still like some of the stuff you say. Some of the stuff you say is real because the history of the people and what's going on with our people and certain things. But with that foundational Black American thing, it's bullshit. Just like ADOS is bullshit. Anybody that's sitting up here telling our people what we anything other than American Indians is full of crap. I'm going to just say it like that. That's horse shit. Foundational Black American is horse shit. Just like ADOS is horse shit. American Indian is real. And that's what I heard Dane Callaway say. I ain't never heard you say that. You, Jason Black, and you guys, you stay away from the whole American Indian thing or the indigenous thing. Y'all stay away from it, which leads me to think that because you never hear, if you notice, you never hear the boule. See, the black boule, that's a no-no with them in the eyes of their white paymasters, the elites who give them money to groom certain people to misdirect and feed our people misinformation. They don't like our people saying that we were indigenous to this country. They want us to push the whole, we came from another place. We came from Africa and all this other. They want us to push that. As long as you pushing that we not American and we not American indigenous, they fine with you. And it seemed like you on that type of trope, Tariq, because whenever somebody asks you about us being indigenous, you try to act like, oh yeah, well there was some indigenous ones of our people here. You try to make it seem like It's minimal. You trying to minimize our presence here in America before everybody else. You trying to minimize our presence like it was some of us here, but you try to more or less make it seem like we came, the majority of us came from Africa on some slave ship, which is a load of BS. And when Dane said, well, where these slave ships said, why? He questioned it and whatnot. Why you ain't say, well, here's the proof of the slave ship. You didn't do nothing. All you said was, he lame, he hella gay, he fat. I'm going to make a cartoon about him because he called you out. Because he called you out and you really couldn't stand on nothing you were saying. That's how people deflect. You see, trying to get a check or reparations for black people, whatever. There's no such thing as black people. That is a creation. That is a creation of the government. Just like I said, all these other creations and code names and aliases are. But again, I'm just an objective person. Not taking those sides. I'm just I respect people that really put the work in. And Dane Callaway has definitely put the work in. Shout out to him, Kareemio, Howell, and all the people I watch up there. Solania, YT, and all the other people that brought out the reality of who we are as the American indigenous Indians of this land, and that we have no connection with Africa. And even that BS that you talk about, that we all life started in Africa, you get that from some Caucasians, Tariq. You got that from some Caucasian theorists who made that up, that all life started in Africa and all this. That's BS. There's no proof on that at all. That's just some Caucasians talking the same way they told we African and we black and we didn't come and we didn't have no presence in America and we came on slave ships. That's a load of BS, man. But that's what you teach. That's what you believe. And you push to the FBAs. So you